First contact. The vast emptiness of space distorted as 27 voidplan warships emerged from hyperspace, their obsidian hulls absorbing starlight rather than reflecting it. At the center of the formation, the command vessel Inevitable Conquest dwarfed its escorts, stretching nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. On the bridge, Supreme Commander Zorax stood with his 4 arms clasped behind his back, all 6 eyes focused on the holographic display of the unremarkable yellow star and its planets. His scaled skin rippled with anticipation as his long tail swayed methodically behind him. "Status report," Zorax demanded, his voice carrying the characteristic metallic resonance of the Void Clan elite. First Officer Krell approached, lowering her head in deference. "The system appears as described in our preliminary scans, Supreme Commander. 8 planets, only the 3rd potentially habitable. Primitive electromagnetic signals detected, suggesting early spacefaring capability at best." "Excellent," Zorax purred. The Voidclan Empire had expanded across 17 star systems in the last cycle alone, incorporating each new species they encountered into their hierarchy. Those that survived, at least. This should be a simple integration. Establish orbit around the 3rd planet and prepare the declaration of sovereignty. As the fleet adjusted its course, Sensor Officer Mira suddenly straightened at her station. "Supreme Commander detecting an artificial construct at coordinates 37 to 9214. It appears to be a vessel of some kind." Zorax flicked a dismissive hand. "Show me." The holographic display shifted, revealing the sleek spacecraft unlike any in the Voidclan database. Where Voidclan ships were angular and intimidating, this vessel had smooth curves and an almost elegant design. It was small compared to the Inevitable Conquest, perhaps 300 meters in length, and bore markings in an unknown script. Most curious was the absence of visible weapon systems. "Primitive defense craft," Zorax concluded. "Establish communication. Let us inform them of their new status within the Voidclan Empire." The communications array hummed to life, broadcasting the standard first contact protocol. Moments later, the bridge view screen activated, revealing a bipedal being with smooth skin and curious symmetrical features. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth ship Defiant," the creature stated in a calm, measured tone. "You have entered sovereign human space. Please state your intentions." Zorax allowed his crest to rise, a sign of amusement among his kind. The translation matrix had already processed their language, remarkably simple compared to the 16-tonal Voidclan speech. These humans would make suitable laborers in the mineral extraction facilities. "I am Supreme Commander Zorax of the Voidclan Empire," he replied. "Your star system now falls under our protection and governance. Transmit your defensive capabilities and population centers immediately. Compliance will ensure favorable treatment during the integration process." The human's expression remained unchanged. "I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding, Commander Zorax. This system is not available for integration. I suggest you withdraw your fleet immediately." A ripple of astonishment passed through the bridge crew. No species had ever rejected Voidclan authority outright. Zorax's crest flattened against his skull, a warning sign his officers recognized all too well. "Perhaps a demonstration is required," Zorax hissed. "Weapons Officer Traz, target their propulsion systems. Disable only. We need specimens for study." The weapons officer complied, and a beam of concentrated plasma lanced out from the Inevitable Conquest toward the human vessel. What happened next would forever change Voidclan military doctrine. The beam, which should have disabled any known shielding technology, simply bent around the Defiant, dissipating harmlessly into space. The human ship hadn't moved, hadn't raised visible shields. The attack had simply failed. "Impossible," Traz whispered, checking his systems. Direct hit confirmed, but no impact registered. Captain Vasquez's image reappeared on the view screen. "That constitutes an act of aggression against Earth. This is your final warning to withdraw." Zorax slammed a fist against his command console. All vessels, converge attack pattern Philos. Show these primitives the might of the Void Clan. The Void Clan fleet moved with practiced precision, spreading to surround the solitary human vessel. 27 ships fired simultaneously, a barrage that would have vaporized a small moon. The Defiant responded by blinking. There was no other word for it. One moment it was in the center of the Void Clan formation. The next it had somehow relocated 2,000 kilometers away without any detectable propulsion signature. Supreme Commander, Mira called out, her voice trembling. I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the human vessel. They're activating some kind of. Her words cut short as the Defiant launched what appeared to be tiny projectiles, barely visible on Void Clan sensors. One struck a nearby cruiser, and instead of an explosion, the point of impact simply ceased to exist. A perfect sphere of nothingness expanded outward, consuming the ship's hull, components, and crew in absolute silence. By the void, Krell breathed. They're using localized reality disruption fields. That's theoretical technology. 2 more Void Clan ships suffered similar fates in rapid succession. Evasive maneuvers, Zorax ordered, but his fleet's previously elegant formation dissolved into chaos as captains desperately tried to avoid the human vessel's incomprehensible weapons. The Defiant pursued with relentless precision, seemingly anticipating the Void Clan ship's movements before they occurred. It targeted weapon systems first, then engines, leaving vessels adrift but with life support intact. They're not trying to destroy us, Krell realized aloud. They're disabling us methodically. Zorax stared at the tactical display, struggling to process what was happening. One small ship was decimating his fleet, and they had barely managed to inflict any damage in return. This defied everything he had been taught about warfare among the stars. Supreme Commander, the communications officer called out, the human vessel is hailing us again. Captain Vasquez's face appeared once more, her expression still remarkably composed. Your fleet has been neutralized, Commander Zorax. We have disabled 14 of your vessels, and can continue until all 27 are inoperable. Do you wish to reconsider your position on withdrawal? Zorax looked around his command center, at the fear evident in his officers' postures. He had entered this system expecting an easy conquest, a simple addition to the Void Clan's ever-expanding borders. Instead, he had encountered something the Void Clan had never faced in 3 centuries of expansion. A species that not only could defend itself but could inflict a humiliating defeat. Before he could respond, Sensor Officer Mira spoke up, her voice barely audible. Supreme Commander, I've completed a deep scan of their vessel. It's not even their most advanced ship. The energy signature suggests this is merely a patrol craft. A cold dread settled in Zorax's gut. If this was merely a scout, what are your terms? He asked, the words bitter in his mouth. Immediate withdrawal from human space, Captain Vasquez replied promptly. And a message to your leaders. Humanity values peace, but we are prepared for war. The choice of our future relationship is yours. As Zorax looked at the tactical display, showing his once proud fleet now scattered and broken, he understood with perfect clarity what humans meant by the word regret. The battle unfolds. The bridge of the inevitable conquest had fallen silent except for the low hum of emergency systems and the occasional ping of damage reports. Supreme Commander Zorax's scaled skin had paled to an ashen gray, a physiological response to extreme stress that he could not control. Status report, he demanded, fighting to keep his voice steady. First Officer Krell worked frantically at her console. 14 vessels disabled. Supreme Commander, 3 more reporting critical damage to propulsion systems. The remainder are combat ready. But she hesitated. Speak freely, Zorax ordered. The fleet captains are requesting instruction. Some are suggesting withdrawal. Zorax's crest flattened against his skull. Withdrawal is not in the Void Clan lexicon. We still outnumber them. All functional ships move to pattern Omega 4. Focus fire on a single point of their hull in sequence. No technology can defend against enough concentrated energy. The remaining Voigtland vessels repositioned themselves, creating a sphere around the Defiant with precise gaps that would allow them to fire without risking hitting each other. It was a textbook maneuver, one that had broken the defenses of countless civilizations before. But as Zorax watched the Defiant on the tactical display, he noticed something disturbing. The human ship wasn't attempting to escape the formation. Instead, it was holding position at the exact center of the sphere, as if inviting the attack. "Sir," Mira said hesitantly, "I'm detecting an unusual energy buildup within the human vessel. It's unlike anything in our database." "Ignore it," Zorax ordered. "All ships, prepare to fire on my mark. Target their propulsion system. 3, 2, 1, fire." Energy beams from 10 Voigtland warships converged on the Defiant's engines. For a brief moment, Zorax thought they had succeeded. The human ship seemed to flicker and distort under the barrage. Then reality itself seemed to bend around the vessel. A ripple of distortion expanded outward, growing rapidly until it encompassed the entire Voigtland formation. Every ship caught in the wave suddenly lost power, their lights flickering and engines dying. "What happened?" Zorax demanded as his own flagship's emergency systems activated. "Some kind of electromagnetic pulse," Krull replied, working by the dim red emergency lighting. "But far more powerful than anything we've encountered. It penetrated our shields as if they weren't there." On the tactical display, now operating on backup power, Zorax watched in horror as the Defiant methodically approached each disabled Voigtland ship. The human vessel wasn't destroying them. It was systematically targeting weapons systems and engines with surgical precision, leaving the ships intact but helpless. "They could destroy us all," Zorax realized aloud, "but they're choosing not to." "Supreme Commander," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel. They're broadcasting on all frequencies to all ships simultaneously." Zorax straightened in his command chair, trying to maintain dignity even in defeat. "Put it through." Captain Vasquez's face appeared on the screen, her expression still calm and controlled. "Commander Zorax, this demonstration is complete. Your fleet has been neutralized without significant loss of life. I suggest you reconsider your position on the immediate withdrawal from human space." Zorax looked around at his command center, at the faces of his crew illuminated only by emergency lighting, at the tactical display showing his proud fleet now disabled and drifting in space. The truth was unavoidable. "What are your terms?" he asked, the words bitter in his mouth. "The same as before," Captain Vasquez replied. "Immediate withdrawal from human space and recognition of our sovereignty. We have no interest in conquest, Commander. We simply wish to be left in peace." As Zorax contemplated the human captain's words, Sensor Officer Mira approached his command chair and spoke quietly. "Sir, I've completed my analysis. If this is merely a patrol vessel as they claim, we must consider what their actual warships might be capable of." The thought sent a shiver through Zorax's body. This single vessel had disabled half his fleet without sustaining significant damage. If the humans deployed their true military might, "Prepare to accept their terms," Zorax said, his voice hollow with defeat. "The High Council will need to reassess our entire understanding of this species." As he looked at the image of the human captain on his screen, Zorax wondered how many other primitive species the Voigtland had underestimated in their centuries of expansion, and for the first time in his career, he questioned whether the Voigtland's path of conquest was sustainable in a galaxy with species like humanity. Before Zorax could formally communicate his acceptance, Mira's console lit up with urgent alerts. Multiple new energy signatures detected. "Supreme Commander." The tactical display showed 7 massive vessels materializing at the system's edge, each one dwarfing even the inevitable conquest. Unlike the relatively sleek design of the Defiant, these ships were clearly built for war. Their angular hulls bristled with weapon systems, and their forward sections resembled predatory creatures from the Voigtland homeworld. "Configuration unknown," Mira reported, her voice shaking. But size and energy output suggest capital ships. They're much larger than the Defiant. They're hailing us, the communications officer announced. Zorax straightened his posture and adjusted his ceremonial armor. Even in defeat, a Voidclan commander must maintain dignity. On screen, the face that appeared was not Captain Vasquez. This human male wore a dark uniform with silver insignia at the collar. His face was lined with age, his eyes hard and evaluating. Commander Zorax of the Voidclan expansion fleet, the human said, not phrasing it as a question. This is Admiral Chen of the United Earth Defense Force, 7th Battle Group. Your forces have engaged in unprovoked hostilities against a human vessel in sovereign space. This constitutes an act of war. Zorax fought to keep his voice steady. Admiral, there has been a misunderstanding. We were merely conducting standard expansion protocol. By firing upon our patrol vessel after being warned to withdraw, the Admiral cut him off. Our sensors recorded the entire exchange. There is no misunderstanding. On the tactical display, the 7 human warships had formed a precise formation surrounding what remained of the Voidclan fleet. Their positioning was flawless, cutting off any possible escape vector. Sir, Mira whispered from beside Zorax's command chair, preliminary analysis suggests these vessels outclass our own by at least 2 technological generations. Their weapon systems are concerning. Zorax ignored her, focusing on the human admiral. What are your intentions? That depends on your next actions, Admiral Chen replied. Captain Vasquez offered you withdrawal. That offer stands, but only for the next 5 minutes. After that, we will consider your continued presence an ongoing act of aggression and respond accordingly. Pride and training warred within Zorax's mind. The Voidclan did not retreat. It did not surrender. In 3 centuries of expansion, it had never backed down from a confrontation. But neither had it faced anything like this. Supreme Commander, Krell said urgently, I'm detecting energy buildups in the human vessels. They're charging weapon systems. Zorax's mind raced. Half his fleet was already disabled. The remaining ships were scattered, their formation broken. And now they faced 7 capital ships of unknown, but clearly superior capability. The logical decision was obvious, but Voidclan doctrine forbade retreat. 4 minutes remaining, Commander, Admiral Chen noted calmly. Zorax made his decision. Signal all operational vessels. Prepare for immediate withdrawal. We are leaving this system. His officers exchanged shocked glances, but began carrying out his orders. The remaining Voidclan ships adjusted their positions, preparing to enter hyperspace. A wise decision, Commander, Admiral Chen said. When you report to your superiors, I suggest you emphasize that humanity has no interest in conflict. We defend what is ours, but we do not seek expansion through conquest. As the Voidclan fleet prepared to depart, Zorax couldn't help but ask one final question. Admiral, the technology your patrol ship displayed, it defies our understanding of physics. How did your species develop such capabilities? For the first time, a hint of a smile crossed the Admiral's face. Let's just say you're not the first expansionist empire we've encountered, Commander. The first one didn't listen to our warnings either. They no longer exist. With those ominous words lingering in his mind, Zorax gave the order to withdraw. As the stars stretched into lines around the inevitable conquest, he contemplated the report he would have to make to the High Council and the fundamental changes it would bring to the Voidclan Empire. Aftermath and implications. The Great Hall of the Voidclan High Council hummed with agitated whispers as Supreme Commander Zorax finished his report. The 7 counselors, each representing a founding clan of the Empire, sat in elevated positions around the circular chamber, their expressions ranging from disbelief to outrage. High Counselor Vex, eldest of the 7, leaned forward, his ancient scales shifting like tectonic plates. You retreat, he stated, the words emerging as a hiss rather than a question. For the first time in 3 centuries, a Voigtland fleet withdraws from a potential conquest. Zorax stood straight, though every instinct demanded he lower his head in submission. I made the only logical decision, High Counselor. To continue would have meant the destruction of the entire fleet. Better destruction than dishonor, shouted Counselor Drax, the military representative, his crest fully extended in aggression. The Voigtland does not retreat. These have been our principles since the founding. Zorax activated the holographic projector he had brought. With respect, Counselor, principles cannot stand against reality distortion weapons and gravity manipulation technology. The chamber darkened as recordings from the battle played in the air between them. The counselors watched in silence as the human vessel Defiant systematically disabled ship after ship of the Voigtland fleet with technologies that even the Empire's theoretical weapons division had deemed impossible. When the recording ended, showing the arrival of the human battle group, Counselor Zilla of the Science Clan spoke. These technologies, they should not exist at this development stage. Our intelligence indicated this species achieved faster than light travel less than a century ago. That is correct, Counselor, Zorax confirmed. The humans were forthcoming about this matter after our withdrawal. 52 cycles ago, they were attacked by another expansionist species, the Morgoth hegemony. Several counselors hissed in recognition of the name. The Morgoth were destroyed in an internal conflict, Counselor Vex stated. No, Zorax corrected, knowing the risk of contradicting the High Counselor. They were destroyed by humans after attempting to conquer their homeworld. The humans captured Morgoth technology, reverse engineered it, and then improved upon it. They've spent the last 5 decades preparing for another invasion, which we unfortunately provided, Counselor Zilla concluded. Indeed. The council chamber erupted in heated discussion. Zorax stood silently, waiting for the noise to subside. When it finally did, High Counselor Vex addressed him again. These terms, he said, gesturing to the treaty document projected before them. Assessment. Zorax straightened. They are surprisingly lenient given the humans' position of strength. They demand recognition of their sovereign territory, a non-aggression pact, and limited technology exchange. Technology exchange? Counselor Drax scoffed. What could these upstarts possibly offer the Voigtland? Their gravity manipulation technology alone would revolutionize our shipbuilding and planetary development, Zorax replied. And their medical science is decades ahead of ours. They have offered cures for 2 diseases that still plague Voigtland worlds. Another round of murmurs filled the chamber. Most importantly, Zorax continued when quiet returned. They are not demanding reparations for our unprovoked attack, nor are they asking for territory or resources. They simply want to be left in peace. Or they are buying time to prepare for their own expansion, Counselor Drax suggested darkly. Zorax shook his head. I spent weeks negotiating with them. I do not believe conquest is their goal. They are different from us. Different from any species the Voigtland has encountered. After 3 days of deliberation, the High Council ratified the treaty. Zorax found himself appointed as the official Voigtland ambassador to humanity, returning to Earth aboard a diplomatic vessel. Captain Vasquez, now Fleet Captain Vasquez, had been assigned as his liaison, her ship Concordia escorting the Voigtland delegation through human space. We're approaching Earth defense perimeter, Vasquez announced over the communication channel. You'll be scanned and then cleared for approach to Orbital Station Unity. Zorax stood on the bridge of his vessel, watching as they passed massive human defense platforms. Each one bristled with weapons that made his scales tighten involuntarily. Your defenses are impressive, he commented to Vasquez. Her image on the view screen showed a small smile. These are just the visible ones, Ambassador. The implication wasn't lost on Zorax. The humans were making sure the Voigtland understood their defensive capabilities. As they approached the massive orbital station, Zorax was struck by its design. Unlike the purely functional Voigtland stations, Unity was beautiful. Its curved, spiraling structure incorporated gardens and water features visible even from a distance. Yet Zorax knew from intelligence reports that the station also housed powerful weapon systems and could transform into a battle station within minutes. Beauty and deadliness combined, it seemed to epitomize humanity. The diplomatic reception was held in a vast chamber with one transparent wall, offering a stunning view of Earth below. Representatives from every human nation were present, along with those from Mars and the Jovian colonies. "A gift," she said, handing him a small data crystal. "Historical records of Earth's development. I thought you might find it educational." Zorax accepted the crystal with a formal bow. "Thank you, Captain. I hope our people's next meeting will be under better circumstances than our first." Vasquez smiled. "I believe it will be, Ambassador. After all, the greatest regret can lead to the greatest growth." 20 years later, the Galactic Concord held its inaugural assembly on Earth's Unity Station. 17 species, former adversaries, neutrals, and allies, gathered to establish common laws for interstellar relations. At the center of the assembly hall stood a sculpture, a Voidclan warship and a human patrol vessel, frozen in the moment before conflict, a reminder of how close the galaxy had come to war and how wisdom had prevailed instead. Ambassador Zorax, now High Counselor Zorax, stood before the assembly and spoke the words that would begin a new era. "We came as conquerors, and through our defeat found something greater, a future built on mutual respect rather than domination. May this concord stand as testimony that the true path to greatness lies not in subjugation, but in cooperation." As applause filled the chamber, Fleet Admiral Vasquez caught his eye from across the room and nodded once, acknowledgement of how far they had come from that first, nearly catastrophic encounter. Not with a bang, but with understanding, the old order of the galaxy had transformed, and it had all begun with a single patrol ship named Defiant.